today I am going to be starting Lori Holt's flower basket sampler quilt. I don't have a picture of I don't have a printout of the quilt, so I'll just have Jake put a picture in like up here that shows you what the quilt looks like. She is doing, this is a weekly quilt along that Lori is sharing on her blog every week, and the pattern is free. You just have to follow her on her blog spot, which I'll link below. And she's already released a tutorial for block 1, but I thought I would share how I make mine, which is not too different from how Lori does hers, but I just thought I would share my methods and what's worked for me, and has allowed me to like really move quickly through these quilts, as opposed to, I don't do any hand applique on these anymore. I do machine applique. So I invested in a couple of her thread sets so that I can match the colors to the fabric. So I just top stitch everything down, and I'm happy with how it looks, and it's fun and achievable for me that way. So I thought I would share. I've already got block 1, all my pieces cut out for the basket. So this quilt is mostly pieced. There's only a little bit of applique, and the applique is just the flowers in the baskets. So I'll piece all this. I don't think I'll do it during this video, but I'll get all that pieced and ready for applique. But for now, I wanted to show y'all how I cut out my shapes. So I'm going to switch to my other camera so y'all can see how I do it. Okay, so we are going to be making the first block in the series, and I have pulled, so I got my fabric kit from Happy Little Stitch Shop, and usually the fabric requirements for these patterns are really generous. So while you do have plenty of fabric, I am sure to be careful when I know I'm going to need big pieces, and I cut as I go. So I don't do the be prepared stuff that Lori recommends. I don't pre-cut all of my interfacing or my fabrics for the shapes. I just cut as I go. I did do the be prepared method, I think for her Be Happy quilt, and it was not a happy time. And I didn't enjoy making it, and I decided to not finish it. And what happened was I ended up with all of these pieces that were already cut, and it was just kind of a sad waste of fabric. So pretty much from that quilt on, I just decided I'm going to cut as I go until I'm sure that I like what I'm doing. And I haven't run into any issues with this. I've never run out of fabric doing it this way. And if I do run out of fabric, it's not like I don't have a million scraps that I could go and replace a piece with. All her fabric coordinates. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at on the pattern. She's got the shapes that you need listed out. So I know I need 18, 49, 48, and 6. So usually in order to do her sew along quilts, you do have to buy the shapes separately. Okay, so I found the shapes that I need for this block. And what I'm going to do, I've already pulled out the fabric that I need for this block. I'm going to set that aside. I like to use Lori's sew-in interfacing. I have used like other brands that you can buy at like Hobby Lobby, like Pellon, and I think I get better results with Lori's stuff. So I do like to keep a good stock of her interfacing. So I just trace with a pencil. And I will label what the shape is so I don't forget. I need 2 of these. So when I lay out my shapes, I just make sure that I have enough room to cut around them without cutting through any of my drawn lines. I've had too much coffee today because my hands want to shake. For this piece, you've got to flip it and do the reverse to make it longer, or the correct size rather. So we're going to trace it and then flip it, line that up. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these pieces out. And this might be controversial for some of y'all, but I literally just, I don't worry about it being a perfect rectangle. I just chop and go. I don't really see the point in making everything all pretty and neat only to have to cut it up again, so I just skip that first cut and just chop it out. Okay, so I have all my pieces traced on the interfacing, and now I am going to do the same thing sort of with the fabric. So this piece is at the top of the basket. And I'm just gonna lay it down, I'll put it over here. And I just try to use as little fabric as possible. Like I make sure I give myself enough fabric, but I don't like to waste it, so I just use as little as possible. So that's all I need for the pink. And then, let's see, these are the leaves. So with this, I would lay out all 4 of them. I have more fun doing it this way. It's faster, and then I just get to sew quicker and the fun can begin. Because some of those be prepared posts, I mean, they're a lot of work. Okay, so I've got my leaves. And then we're gonna do the small flowers. And I just kind of, however I want it to be oriented, I just, you know, that looks good to me, so. And I like to just refold my fabric and keep it neat so I can find it. Okay, so just go right through. Those are done. And then the last flower, this big flower at the top. So I can kind of fussy cut what I might want within reason. Like I love the dog, but I don't think I would cut way out here just yet, just because I don't want to run out of fabric. So I'm going to try to see if there's another part of this closer to the edge. I kind of like this, so I think I'm going to cut over here. And all my pieces are ready, so I can go over to my machine and just start sewing these down. So I will go ahead and pause this, and I will see y'all at my machine in just a second. So I'm going to sew directly on the line with my machine, and before I do this, I shorten my stitch length to about 1.5 millimeters. That's probably over shortening my stitch, but I really want my pieces to look nice when I turn them right side out. So I am going to make that adjustment, and I'm going to stitch on the line for all of my pieces. Okay, so I have finished sewing all of my shapes, and I'm ready to cut them out with a pair of scissors. So I'm going to get my tools and I will meet you back here. Alright, so let me zoom y'all in a little bit. When I cut out my shapes, I cut out maybe 1/8 of an inch away from the stitched line. Not so close that I'm going to blow through the stitches when I turn it right side out, but I like to have a small little seam allowance, and then when I get to my points I will blunt them, and that'll reduce the amount of bulk I have in the points, which will help me get sharper points. So then I will clip my Lori calls it the cleavage. So I will clip right up to my stitches, but not through my stitches. And then I take my seam ripper and I just kind of brace it against my finger, and I tear just a little bit of a hole. Make sure you're in the interfacing and not the fabric. Otherwise you'll have to make another shape. See, I somehow managed to split the layers in the interfacing. Okay, so I just tear a hole like that, and then I think I'm gonna need to make that a little bit bigger. So I'll just kind of cut an X. So now I can turn it right side out. And Lori uses the Clover point-to-point turner, which is definitely helpful. And I just work my points out, try to make everything as smooth as I can. I usually try to work from the interfacing just because cotton has more of a memory than the interfacing does, and it just helps you get it laying the way you want a little bit easier. And I feel like I'm less likely to burst through the seams if I'm getting a little too aggressive with my point turner, if I'm doing it from the interfacing and not the cotton. And just kind of work on it until you like it. Okay. And I have my iron here ready to go. If you are looking for an iron that gets really, really hot and has a good footprint, I recommend the Aliso. And I don't put steam in it. I think water is the first thing that ruins an iron, to be honest, and I know it kind of defeats the point of an iron, but that's my first shape. And I'll just set that aside and I will do the rest the same way. Okay, so I have all of my shapes finished, and I will show y'all how I do my bias tape for the flower stems here in a minute. Okay, so this is my bias tape that I cut using Lori's instructions. And I start by cutting a point on one end, and this is going to help me feed it through my bias tape maker. These are made by Clover. You can get the whole set off of Amazon, I believe, or in any major craft store. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to spray it with starch. This helps it stay really flat for me, and I think it makes a world of difference. So I'm going to grab my starch. I keep it in like a mister bottle, and I don't really do anything special. I just spritz it, and then I feed it with my pointy end. I feed it through this way, and I will kind of use my fingernail to push it out through the opening. And then from here, I'll take my iron. Let's see how I want to do this. Just get it started, and then I will press as I pull the fabric through the bias tape maker. Okay, so now I have my tape made, and it's stiff and flat, and nothing is going to come undone. So now from here I would trim to size whatever she says they need to be cut. Okay, I'm finally to the good part, which I think is the glue. I don't know why. I find that part the most satisfying, and I've just had Lori's YouTube tutorial up in front of me on my iPad, and I'm just following along with her while she's explaining what to do. So if you haven't watched her video, definitely go watch it, because she's the master. I'm just the student here. Okay, so I followed Lori on her YouTube tutorial, and I have all my pieces glued. I'm gonna let it dry, and then I'll come back and do some top stitching. I don't know if I'll do the top stitching today. I might wait until I have all the baskets glued and ready for applique, and then I will just do all the top stitching at once. But I don't worry too much about placement. I just, if it looks good to my eye, then I'm happy with it. I don't get too fanatical about measuring. Sometimes it helps, but I'll drive myself crazy if I try to make it perfect. So I just kind of look at it straight on, and if I like it, then I just let it be. So anyway, I hope this was helpful to somebody out there. I know I have a lot of people ask me how I'm so fast at stuff, and I guess I've figured out a way to streamline my process. So yeah, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments and I'd be happy to answer. Thanks for watching. Oh, definitely cut that out.